so number one on that list, we have entity formation, right? And limited liability. And this is a concept that a lot of people are familiar with. Obviously nowadays, starting your business as an LLC or a limited liability company is probably the most popular way to start a business. Part of the reason for that is the personal liability protection that you receive as a business owner when you own an LLC, right? And so what does that mean? How does it protect us? Let's jump into that, right? And so LLCs and corporations provide personal liability protection to business owners. And it's important to understand where that personal liability protection comes from, because that will help you ensure that you maintain that personal liability protection and that you're, able to use it in situations in which your business encounters a lawsuit or any sort of risk, right? And so personal liability protection, first off, what is it? Personal liability protection means that you, as the business owner, as an individual, are not legally responsible for the debts and judgments that belong to your business, generally speaking, right? So if your business gets sued, if your business owes a debt, generally speaking, you're not personally responsible for that. And what that means in practice is that if your business gets sued, your house, your bank account, personal bank account, your car, anything that you own, any assets that you own in your name are not on the chopping block when it comes to that person who your business owes money to come collect, right? And so it's important to understand where that comes from, because again, that liability protection is it's the same sort of thing where if as an individual, no one would try to hold me legally responsible for your liabilities, right? As an individual, right? We don't hold one person responsible for something that another person did, or for a legal responsibility that another person has, right? And so because of that, it's important to understand a couple things, right? Number one, your personal liability protection that comes from having an LLC or a corporation is not absolute. All right. And so it's not going to protect you from your own personal negligence. Okay. And so if you, let's say you have a business, is a brick and mortar business. So somebody's in your store and somebody comes by and says, hey, there's a puddle on aisle 6. You might want to go clean that up, and you nod them off. You go back to looking at your laptop, whatever. 2 hours later, somebody comes by, slips on that puddle, and breaks something, right? In that situation, you will most likely be sued individually, and you might end up owing that person because you were personally negligent, right? You should have acted, you should have took action to clean up that puddle. That's what a reasonable person would have done. And because you didn't, somebody slipped and fell, right? And they hurt themselves. So you will probably be held liable for that, for being negligent, right? Same thing if you're driving the company van. The fact that you're working and driving the company van doesn't protect you from getting sued if you're texting and driving and you hit someone, right? And so that personal liability protection will not extend to and protect you from your own negligence, right? Same thing too, if you're a professional, that's why you have professional malpractice insurance, is to protect you from your own negligence that you personally engaged in, if you made a mistake personally, right? The second thing to keep in mind is that you will not receive personal liability protection if you engage in any form of misconduct, right? And so this applies, number one, for example, if you have a corporation and you're not following those, corporate responsibilities, you're not holding meetings of the board of directors, you're not taking minutes, you're not, keeping a record book the way that you should be of decisions that are made as a corporation or as a board. Same sort of things with an LLC. If you're not following those requirements, those legal requirements, you're not going to receive that personal liability protection, right? You're not running the business according to the law, so they're not going to afford you that protection. The other thing to keep in mind is that you can be stripped of that layer of protection if you're commingling funds, right? And so if you're treating assets that belong to the business as if they belong to you personally, and you end up in court and your business gets sued, and they look into those financial records, the court might say, well, you weren't recognizing the legal difference between your business and yourself as an individual, right? You were digging into the business's piggy bank or the business's bank account and treating it like a personal piggy bank, going on vacations, paying the light bill, paying the kids' tuition, so on and so forth. And so because you didn't recognize the difference between the two, we're not going to recognize the difference between the two either as a court, and we're going to allow this person who your business owes money to collect from you personally, right? That's why it's so important when you when you start an LLC to open a business bank account, right? Because at the end of the day, that will help keep you protected, will help you manage and maintain your personal liability protection, right? So it is important to understand and remember that personal liability protection doesn't extend to and cover us from all risk. It doesn't protect us from every lawsuit. And it definitely, we can lose it if we're engaging in misconduct, right? Which is why it's so important to realize getting an LLC is not the end all be all when it comes to protecting your business.